Welcome to Learning English from the Voice of America. I'm Katie Weaver. Our 30-minute program is designed for people learning English. So we speak a little slowly, using simple sentences and a limited vocabulary. On the show today, we have some science news from Ann Ball and a report from John Russell about a Chinese political title. As always, we close the show with our American President series. Today, Kelly Jean Kelly tells us about number 27, William Howard Taft. But first, marijuana is now big business in many U.S. states. Some Native Americans want in on that profitable business. Here's Phil Dirking.
Native American tribes want to begin growing and selling marijuana. They hope it will help end poverty on reservations, the large areas where many Native Americans live. However, there is uncertainty about the future of U.S. marijuana policy. Cannabis is the plant that produces marijuana. The growth and sale of marijuana in some states has become a big business. ArcView is a cannabis investor network in California. It says the U.S. marijuana market earned $6.7 billion in 2016. Supporters of cannabis say it has many uses. The male cannabis plant can be used to make hemp, which is used around the world in more than 25,000 products. These include food, fabric, and medicine.
Leslie Boscor is the founder of Electrum Partners, which helps states and Native American tribes enter the marijuana business. He said hemp can be used to create plastics that are more environmentally friendly than those made from oil and gas, which are not biodegradable. Boscor says when hemp is put into a landfill, it will degrade and not cause damage to the environment. He said the creation of plastic products causes more pollution than the making of products from hemp. Native American tribes have an advantage over other companies in the cannabis business. Many businesses in the United States lower their taxes by deducting their business expenses from their profits. But companies that grow and sell cannabis are not permitted to deduct their business expenses. This means they pay a higher tax rate than do other companies. However, Native American tribes and the companies they own do not pay federal income taxes on money earned on reservations. Boscor says this means that a tribe-owned cannabis company could earn a profit margin of up to 85%.
The Controlled Substances Act of 1970 bans the growth, sale, and use of marijuana and other drugs. But the law has not stopped states from legalizing marijuana. In 1996, California became the first state to legalize marijuana for medical uses. Since then, other states have done so. Some states have also legalized the recreational use of marijuana. In a document released in 2013, the United States Department of Justice said states could give their citizens the right to grow and sell marijuana. The department said people would not be arrested for doing so. There were some restrictions. For example, states could not permit cannabis to be grown on public land. They could not permit the sale of marijuana to young people or let it be sold in states where it was still illegal. The department wrote similar rules for tribal governments a few months later. Vincent Slawski is a lawyer in Portland, Oregon. Some of his clients are cannabis companies. He teaches cannabis law. He says the Justice Department document means the federal government does not want to spend money enforcing marijuana laws. But he says the Trump administration could change that policy. 29 states and Washington, D.C. have legalized some form of marijuana use. Several tribes have tried to enter the marijuana business, but most have been stopped by the federal government. Some Native Americans are operating successful marijuana businesses, including the Squaxin Island tribe in Washington state. Others have banned marijuana, like the Oglala Sioux in South Dakota.
In July 2015, government agents raided 2 reservations in Northern California. They said the tribes were producing a greater amount of marijuana than is permitted. The tribes denied the accusations. 3 months later, federal agents took hemp plants from the Menominee Nation in the upper Midwestern state of Wisconsin. The agents said people who were not Native Americans were operating the tribe's cannabis business. The agents also said that the tribe was producing plants with higher levels of THC than permitted. THC is the part of the cannabis plant that gives marijuana its psychoactive effects. The Menominee tribe said it had asked the government to test the plants and had said it would destroy any plants that had levels of THC higher than permitted. After these raids, the Flandreau Santee Sioux tribe in South Dakota burned its crop and closed its cannabis growing operations. The tribe feared it would also be raided. It is not clear why some federal agents have raided some tribal marijuana operations. Slawski said it is possible that some police agencies do not understand the 2013 Department of Justice document or are targeting Native American tribes. U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions has said he opposes the use of marijuana. An administration spokesman said the president sees a big difference between medicinal and recreational use of marijuana. He suggested that the administration may release a policy limiting the recreational use of marijuana.
Leslie Boscor believes banning the medical and recreational use of marijuana would be very unpopular. He does not believe the federal government will take any action limiting the uses of the drug, and he notes that marijuana sales have brought a lot of money to some states. More than $500 million in taxes have been paid in Colorado by the marijuana industry since voters decided to legalize the drug in 2014.
China has only one chairman, and that is Chairman Mao Zedong. Mao served as chairman of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China. The position was so powerful that party leaders did away with the title within years of Mao's death in 1976. But is the title truly gone forever? Maybe not. On June 30th, at a military parade in Hong Kong, President Xi Jinping met troops from the People's Liberation Army, or PLA. The troops responded to greetings from Xi by shouting, "Greetings, Chairman." The title was heard again on July 30th during a military parade to mark the 90th anniversary of the PLA in Inner Mongolia. At that event, troops also responded to Xi's greetings by saying, "Greetings, Chairman." Currently, Xi is both General Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China as well as Chairman of the Central Military Commission. But some wonder if Xi might use the National Congress meeting this autumn to claim the position of party chairman. The move is important because it would permit Xi to have veto power over all the other members of the committee. It could also permit him to hold on to power longer. Xi's current position as General Secretary is limited to 2 terms. Tai Ming-chung is an analyst of Chinese and East Asian defense and national security affairs with the Institute of Global Conflict and Cooperation at the University of California, San Diego. He said that Xi's 2 recent meetings with troops showed that if the PLA and the country go to war, he is in charge. With the National Party Congress set to meet, one might expect a few candidates to be working to follow Xi as party leader. But there were no other political leaders at any of these parades, so it looks as if he's not grooming a successor, and it looks as if he controls the military, Chung told VOA Chinese. Tom Finger is a Shorenstein Asia-Pacific Research Fellow at Stanford University in California. He said the PLA's response to Xi as party leader shows the army takes orders from the party, not the people. I do not see this as elevating Xi to the stature of Mao, Finger said. History may explain why some Chinese worry about bringing back Mao's title of chairman. Wen Xiangao is a senior policy advisor at Human Rights in China. He said, all the biggest disasters that occurred during the communist rule were due to Chairman Mao's unchecked power. In May 1966, Mao started the Cultural Revolution to take full control over the Communist Party. The New York Times said the exact number of dead during the Cultural Revolution is not known, but a number of 1 million or more is most commonly reported. Many died from food shortages, and others were killed by the government or died in prison because they were not seen as loyal enough to the Communist Party. I'm John Russell.
It is a question people have been asking for ages. Is there a way to turn back the aging process? For centuries, people have been looking for a fountain of youth. The idea was that if you find a magical fountain and drink from its waters, you will not age. Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon searched for waters with magical powers in the early 1500s. But what he found instead is the American state of Florida. Researchers in New York did not find an actual fountain of youth, but they may have found a way to turn back the aging process. It appears the answer may be hidden right between your eyes in an area called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is part of your brain. It controls important activities in the body. They include growth, reproduction, and the way we process food. Researchers at New York's Albert Einstein College of Medicine found that the hypothalamus neural stem cells also influence how fast aging takes place in the body. What are stem cells? They are simple cells that can develop into specialized cells like blood or skin cells. Stem cells can also repair damaged tissues and organs. Dongsheng Tsai is a professor at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. He was the lead researcher in a study on aging in mice. He and his team reported their findings in the journal Nature. Tsai explains what they found.
Aging speed can be controlled by a particular place in the body, which is the hypothalamus. And it can be controlled by a particular type of cells, which are hypothalamus stem cells. I think these findings quite interesting, potentially remarkable.
He adds that when the hypothalamus starts aging, so does the body.
So when hypothalamic function is declined, particularly the loss of these hypothalamic stem cells, and this protection against the aging development is lost, so it eventually lead to aging.
Using this information, the researchers began trying to activate or energize the hypothalamus in laboratory mice. They did this by injecting the animals with stem cells. Later, the researchers examined tissues and tested for changes in behavior. They looked for changes in the strength and coordination of the animal's muscles. They also studied the social behavior and cognitive ability of the mice. The researchers say the results show that the treatment slowed aging in the animals. Tsai says injecting middle-aged mice with stem cells from younger mice helped the older animals live longer.
When we injected the hypothalamus stem cells, which were derived from young mice, we inject them to the middle-aged mice, and there was an effect to slow down aging. So the mouse aged slowly, and they also had the increased lifespan, which is longevity.
But these results were just from studying mice in a laboratory. If the mice can live longer, does that mean people could have longer lives? The next step is to see if the anti-aging effects also work in human beings.
If we can translate what we have seen in animals to humans, I think a human, they can function better during later ages, later stage of aging.
Tsai and his team say their studies may have other benefits. They say the findings could lead to new ways to help doctors identify and treat any number of age-related health issues. I'm Ann Ball.
VOA Learning English presents America's Presidents. Today we are talking about William Howard Taft, who took office in 1909. In some ways, the story of Taft's presidency is also a story about Theodore Roosevelt's presidency. Roosevelt had been president for the 8 years before Taft. The two men were friends. Roosevelt was even a mentor to Taft. But the two men were very different. Roosevelt was energetic, both in his physical abilities and in his use of executive power. His vision for the country was progressive. In contrast, Taft was a more conservative, heavy man who fell asleep in meetings and who did not make decisions quickly. In fact, Americans often remember Taft because of his size. His weight changed frequently, but as president, Taft usually weighed about 135 kilograms. One popular story claims that Taft got stuck in a White House bathtub. This story is not true. However, it is true that Taft had a special bathtub made for him. Several men could sit comfortably in it. As president, Taft did continue some of Roosevelt's reforms, but in a more orderly way. He also took some actions that contradicted Roosevelt's wishes. In 4 years, the two men had gone from political allies to competitors for the White House. Taft was another president who was born in the state of Ohio. He grew up in the city of Cincinnati, along with 5 siblings. Taft's father was a well-known lawyer, public official, and diplomat. He was an advisor to President Ulysses Grant. His mother was an intelligent, independent woman who also worked for the public good. The Tafts had high expectations for their son. He became an excellent student who went on to study at Yale and then the University of Cincinnati Law School. Taft sought a career path that he hoped would lead him one day to the U.S. Supreme Court. He worked as a lawyer and then as a judge in Ohio. Along the way, he met Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt helped Taft advance his career as a judge. But one person was not happy about the career move: Taft's wife. Taft had married an intelligent, independent woman named Helen Herron, known as Nellie. She had always wanted to be First Lady, and she urged her husband to follow a path toward the White House. In time, Nellie Taft had her wish. In 1900, President William McKinley offered Taft a position in the Philippines. The islands had come under the control of the United States after the Spanish-American War. McKinley wanted Taft to help prepare the Philippines to be ruled by civilians instead of by soldiers. Taft worried he would not like the job. However, he knew that it was a good chance to build a political career. Taft was right about that, but he was wrong about disliking the job. He enjoyed it so much that he turned down 2 offers to return to the U.S. and serve on the Supreme Court. In the Philippines, Taft successfully established courts, schools, a transportation network, and a healthcare system. Taft did have pejorative views about the people who lived there. He did not think they were yet capable of governing themselves, but he performed his job as Governor General effectively. Taft might have even stayed in the Philippines if it were not for his friend, Theodore Roosevelt. In 1901, Roosevelt became president. He asked Taft to become his Secretary of War. Taft agreed, partly so he could continue to supervise the Philippines, but the job also put him in a position to become president himself. William Taft did not really want to be president, but Theodore Roosevelt and Nellie Taft wanted him to be. During the election of 1908, Taft permitted Roosevelt to do most of the campaigning for him. He spent a lot of time golfing. Taft was the first president to be strongly linked, so to speak, to the sport of golfing. Another word for golf course is links. Yet voters approved of Taft. They likely hoped he would continue the reforms of Roosevelt. He won the election easily. Once in the White House, however, Taft did several things that reversed Roosevelt's positions. First, Taft signed a bill that did not reduce tariffs as much as many progressive activists wanted. Then, Taft removed one of Roosevelt's friends from a government position. Taft believed he was correct in making the move, but Roosevelt and many other Republicans were furious. Some historians say they did not give Taft enough credit for the many reforms he did make. His government pursued a large number of antitrust suits against big businesses. It also advanced 2 constitutional amendments, one to establish a federal income tax and another to permit voters to elect senators directly. As the end of Taft's term in the White House came near, the Republican Party was divided. At their 1912 convention, a majority of delegates nominated Taft for president again, but a number left the meeting in anger. They created a new group called the Progressive Party and nominated as their candidate Theodore Roosevelt. Taft and Roosevelt, along with the Democratic Party candidate, fought a bitter campaign during 1912. Of the 3, Taft came in last. Roosevelt came in second. The divided Republicans had given control of the White House to the Democratic candidate, Woodrow Wilson. Happily for him, Taft's story does not end there. Taft taught at Yale University Law School for a while. Then, when a Republican took the White House again, President Warren Harding appointed Taft as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He is the only person to lead both the executive and judicial branches of the U.S. government. Taft was clear about which one he favored. He was much more comfortable as a justice than he was as president. One journalist at the time described Chief Justice Taft as a smiling Buddha, placid, wise, gentle, sweet. He even lost weight. I'm Kelly Jean Kelly.
That's all the time we have for today's show. For VOA Learning English, I'm Katie Weaver.